Welcome back everyone to the Two-Headed Wolf Gaming channel, Last Epoch, and of course our Druid Totem build experiment, where I'm close to level 30, and before I throw in a bunch of upgrades, we're just before a battle where we get rushed by multiple monsters and one of these mini bosses, and I felt like it was a good start to just show off what I have right now, so that we can talk about what upgrades we pick up and we go forward with it, and then I'll probably put a cut in the middle of the episode to level up until around level 35, return and make ourselves the final changes, plus draw some conclusions. So, for the moment,
Welcome, traveler.
let's go through this conversation and
May
defend
Terra
the Seer.
smile upon you.
So I am running with Summon Thorn Totems and I'm running with the Elemental Totems as well. I've raised the mana by doing a bit of crafting, and whenever I'm running out of mana, one of the things which I'm doing is actually turning into this strength thing. What was it called? A Spriggan. So I'm turning into a Spriggan, and we're actually putting down even more totems that also heal us, while at the same time they're shooting the enemies with these thorns. So they're taking the modifier from our Thorn Totems, and that's pretty nice. And when I run out of rage, I'm going back into the human form, and that is pretty good too. You can see that now I can put down 3 Thorn Totems at once, although that is a lot more expensive now. It's 23 mana cost. And yeah, this is the mini boss that I was talking about. Let me go into Spriggan form, let me put down a few of these totems, because the healing helps a lot as well. I'm also using Summon Vines every once in a while, just because they do poison on the enemies, and you can see the stacks going up like crazy. I feel like that's something else that I want to focus on as soon as we're done with the totems. There we have it. So overall, things are not bad. At least for this early game, things are not bad. Is it the greatest build in the world? No. Is it still functional? Well, surprisingly, yep. And I don't even have the best gear in slot.
May Terra smile.
What do I have which feels impressive? I believe this ring was pretty interesting because it gives us 11% elemental resistance and 24% increased physical damage. Has 17 forging potential, so that means we can throw in a few more modifiers, resistances, whatever we might need. Over here I have this scepter, which provides us with 44% increased physical damage, and that is the main thing that is great about this scepter. As far as the axe goes, I found one and I just crafted some extra physical damage on it. That's the only thing I did there. Not the best axe in the world, but what can you do? And I think that is about it overall. I mean, other than that, there's nothing really too great on our gear. Still, let's talk about passives first of all, I guess. I have invested 5 points here in Druidic Prowess just to get that plus 5 to attunement, plus 5 to strength, and get the all attributes plus 1 bonus when I've invested the 5 points. At this moment, I've unlocked a new set of skills. Ticket of Thorns, you have a chance to cast Thorn Shields on yourself when you are hit, and you have increased armor and reflect damage back to the attackers. 2% chance to cast this shield when hit, increase armor by 4%, and damage deflected 12 per point. I think I would like to throw in a point there, however it would require us to invest 3 points over here, which I think it might be a loss at this moment. Focus Wrath, you deal increased damage while transformed and your rage decays slower. In a sense, I am not sure, 100% sure, actually I do not know at this moment whether this increased damage will apply to totems that we cast when we are in the Spriggan form. Reduced rage decay doesn't really matter to me. Most of the time I'm running through that rage just because I'm casting totems, so getting reduced decay doesn't really matter to me. Increase healing effectiveness for you and your minions, and when we invest 8 points, when we directly use a spell or a movement skill, we cast a Terra's Blessing on a nearby minion or other ally. Prioritizes members on low health. This one is healing enemies or healing allies. So it's this skill right here. The nearest ally's target is healed for 100. If the target is one of your minions, then the healing is tripled and your minion is energized for 4 seconds, increasing its size by 20% and its damage by 100%. The extra damage sounds great. The healing doesn't really matter for totems, at least not this far. I haven't seen anything like that. However, it's once again a very big investment, and I don't really care about that. So at this moment, I'm just gonna continue investing here. I'm going to throw in a bunch of points to get some extra physical and poison damage because we are doing some poison damage here and there. I'll show you in a minute. Wind in the leaves. Increase attack and cast speed of you and your minions. Attack speed, this doesn't really matter too much to me. Cast speed, I guess it would matter for our totems, it would make them shoot quicker. If we invest 3 points, you have increased movement speed while in Spriggan form, and your summon Spriggan have increased movement speed. That's increased by 10%. That could actually be a very good bonus, and it only requires free investment. We can get a bit more melee bleed and spell poison chance. Reverse of Spirit, increase freeze damage, we don't care about that, right? It's not really in our element, so we don't need to worry too much about it. I guess we're gonna invest 3 points here just to get that extra movement speed. That will help us avoid damage, and I feel like that is a really good idea. I want to summon Spriggan instead of the Ravens, which we have worked with so far. Summon a Spriggan that casts spells to attack your enemies and has an aura that restores 10 health every second. When it drops to 0, it's down. Yeah, we know about that. So overall, I want to throw this in just because it feels thematically appropriate and it does feel like a better minion rather than the crows. And I think I'm going to specialize in them in the future. And we're getting here another ability called Rejuvenating Wind, which restores 150 health and 15 mana to the Spriggan and all nearby allies over 2 seconds. So if we're getting some mana back, that is really good for us. Does it have a mana cost? It does have a 28 mana cost. That is not really that great. With passives done, let's go into our active skills. I have spec'd out of homing here. I've tried it. Homing seems to be good, but homing seems to be good only when we're going for something like this. When we're turning into cold damage because we want to have a chance to freeze enemies, I feel like that having homing missiles is actually really good. But other than that, most of the times I can just cast these Storm Totems under the enemy and thus will do most of the damage. It felt to me like I was falling behind in damage rather than not hitting the enemies, right? So that's why I spec'd out of this. I went down for Impale here, which gives us a chance for double damage, a 34% chance for double damage when we invested 2 points. I also want to get this one with Shred Armor, 20% chance to shred the armor. That will mean more physical damage, and I really like that idea. I'm thinking single projectile seems to be really good as well, but I'm once again thinking that I might have the same problem where I want to do all of those attacks very quickly and try to maximize the potential of the damage rather than slowing it down with a single projectile. There's one more thing which I was looking at. For example, you regain mana when a Torn Totem dies or is unsummoned. I think this would be really good for us. And I also, let's see, how much poison are we doing at this moment? 42. I have a lot more bleeding, but that's because of the axe. 42 poison damage, and we can get ourselves a 20% chance to cast poison. You know, it might not be the biggest bonus in the world, but I think it might work. And there was something about Pierce. Piercing is over here. Maximum enemies pierced. +1 per point. That would require us to go with a single projectile. So fire only 1 Thorn with each burst, but they have massively increased cast speed. We would lose this chance to do double projectiles or, you know, or burst. And I don't think I want that. One of the problems I have at the moment with Torn Totems is that we're not really clearing area mobs. So that's why I need Tempest Strike. I cannot give up on Tempest Strike because this is the only totem that actually does some AoE. And we want that. This one does a good amount of AoE. I mean, it does the burst and attacks the area. However, you are falling behind because it's not piercing enemies, so they just go through the first wave and that's when it stops. Let's get to the poison first. So we're gonna get with a bit of mana efficiency and we're gonna go with Venom Team Thorns and then we'll figure out what else we want to do. Over on this side, this one is really not important anymore because unfortunately we are not doing melee attacks. So I will respect. I know I'm losing here a point, but it will be a lot easier to go from level 10 to 11 than from level 11 to 12. Makes sense, right? Tempest Strikes penetrates enemy physical resistances. It's Tempest Strikes, so it's the main attacks. If we're not attacking anymore, these I don't think apply anymore, so we don't care about that. We could go with rousing symbols here, making sure that the Tempest totems get from 10% increased casting speed to 70% increased casting speed. What else would it be good for? Melee damage with axe or mace. That would be good if you were doing melee damage. This is once again melee damage. I think going with reduced mana cost might be the right way to go. Because in this direction I don't see anything else that would help us. So with that in mind, we're going in this direction. 2 points over here. And let's see, Tempest Strikes penetrates enemies' resistances. Yeah, we're not doing Tempest Strikes anymore. Thunder Tempest shocks enemies. Frigid Tempest chills enemies. And over here with the Wind Tempest, have a chance to also cast Tornado. That actually sounds pretty good to me. So we can get some of these extra effects. This one will help us with stun. This one will help us slow down the enemy's attack, movement, and cast speed. And also gives us a chance to freeze enemies, so that is also really good. So overall, even though this might not be the best thing in the world, these modifiers will be. And then we're getting to Spriggan form. I've gotten down here to Spike Totems, making sure that we are attacking with our healing totems as well. We can get an additional totem with Unbound Garden, and I think I would like that. It says that you now always summon 3 healing totems and you have an additional maximum healing totem. So it's going to be very quick. I want to get this because it's going to make everything a bit more efficient. Over on this side, we are going to get increased healing per totem, right? And I want this Wrath of Glade. You now have a chance to cast Spirit Thorns from each of your healing totems when you directly cast Spirit Thorns. What does Spirit Thorns do? They release a burst of thorns towards enemies in the target direction. Thorns deal physical damage on hit and multiple thorns can hit the same target at 1000 damage. Look at that. We want that, right? Sounds really good. Spirit Thorns have a chance to pierce enemies and they penetrate enemy physical and cold resistances. 20% chance to pierce. Yep, I do want that. Do we want anything else though at this moment? Spirit Thorns increase damage and Thorn Burst damage. Could do that. Could have a bit more poison chance in Spriggan form for us and the Vines, and that could be good. Vine damage, Vine health. I am using Vines quite often. Getting 40 armor and another 10% armor on top of it, 10% being calculated from our entire armor. Also sounds good. So this is what we're going to run with for now. Let's push forward and let's try it out. Let's see how this works at the moment. We'll have a bunch of enemies. This is not going to be the most challenging thing in the world. But as you can see, we constantly threw down these thorns and we should be able to survive most encounters without much of a worry. And whenever we are in danger, we're just going to change into the Spriggan form. Well, apparently we've leveled up as well and we didn't need to do that at all. For this extra point, I guess I am going to go with a bit more spell poison chance, sure. Once again, might not be the craziest thing in the world, but we're gonna try to get a bit of that poison damage on. You can see that as far as debuffs go, we're doing some armor shred and that's good for us. There we go. So overall, things are going really well for this build at this level. I don't know if it's going to last. Let's make sure we stay away. Now I'm going to change in Spriggan form. Okay, we did cast 3 healing totems at once, and look at the amount of damage that we are doing. Now, another thing we might do is actually fully invest into this Spriggan form in a way that we can go super crazy. We can only cast 4 totems at once. So maybe if we increase our Thorn totems by 2, then we might be able to do 6 healing totems, cast 3 of them at once. I think that would be really good. Look at the damage. We're doing from 180 to 200 on criticals to 300. Overall, you can see even these enemies are going down quickly with some of those debuffs, especially the Shred Armor debuff. We need to be heading in this direction. And this is how the experience so far has been. With a bit more equipment, with a bit more minion damage, maybe some protection, of course, would be very important. However, we do have plenty of ways to save ourselves from dangerous situation, either by going in Spriggan form, or I would say that that is the main one. But then we also have now this rejuvenating wind. We have our companion with us, who can also help us. However, we would need mana. But it's a really nice way to change in the Spriggan form when you're out of mana and actually still be able to do a lot of damage. There's still a lot to throw in. We're throwing in those healing totems, which will give us protection, health, right? So we're going like this. We're throwing our healing totems. They will heal us, getting us out of dangerous situation, and we will also be able to continue doing damage. There is only one downside, and I wanted to see if there is such a modifier somewhere in the Spriggan forms. Skill 3, where once we're going back into human form, right, the mana doesn't really fill up to the fullest, no matter how much we're staying in that form. So let's see, if I write down mana, you can have an additional maximum Veil Spirit. Okay, while at maximum Veil Spirit, you cast Entangling Roots, blah blah blah. You regain Rage, which deals more damage when you cast this way. But that seems to be about it. I don't see any modifiers which would say that you are regenerating mana while you are in the Spriggan form. There's ways like you can get this bark skin which turns you into werebear in the end. Additional Spriggan in form, basically summoning another one of these minions. Blight of the Forest also seems interesting. After using Summon Vine, human form is now replaced with Infestation, which converts your 2 nearest vines into hives and transforms you into a Swarmblade form. Swarmblade, I believe it's this one here. Yes, Swarmblade form. So you can go from one transformation to the other. I would be guessing that the advantage to doing that is starting with a full rage bar. That's what I would assume. Otherwise, what would be if you are just using one rage bar and transforming into another form does not refill your rage bar, then what would be the usefulness for that, right? I guess you could maximize your rage bar, and maybe you want abilities from multiple forms to work well together. However, I am not really that sure that is the case, or that would be fun to play with. But that's just me at the moment. Who knows how things will change in the future. But as you can see, where with other classes we could say that we struggle in these sort of areas, and I guess there are extra things that I could do even if I was struggling, in the sense that I'm at 15 necrotic resistance, so going for higher than that is probably something which I should do. But it doesn't really matter too much, as I have a lot of these totems which attract attention many times. We don't need to worry too much about these enemies at all. And look at this, even bosses, I'm going to throw down a bunch of vines once I'm casting the totems in. And now they're at 30 stacks poisons. Go human form once again, throw down a few totems, do physical and elemental damage, and yeah, look at that, 40 poison there with the vines and everything else. So it's super crazy how this is going. I think investing in poison might also be a really good way forward. Maybe even changing to cold damage might be one of those things which is super powered. Either way, I feel like this combined totem build with Spriggan totem build is not a bad idea. Definitely something I want to try out for the future. It's not going to be my first choice when going back to these classes in order to take them to the end game. Definitely not going to be top of the list, at least not before trying a Shaman totem build, I would say. But this experiment could keep going. And what I will do now is that I'll put a small break into this. I'll farm until around level 35. We'll find each other in the desert. And we'll continue from there. We shall see how well we can fight in the open space, I guess. After throwing in a few more specialty attacks, I'm thinking of getting one of these Spriggan specialized. Because other than them, there's not really anything where I feel it would add anything to this build. At least not in a way that makes sense for a totem build. Because I'm looking at swipe, and since we are scaling up a lot of physical damage, swipe can be one of the things which I could specialize in, just because every once in a while I can get up close and personal and do a lot of these melee damage, right? And just out of curiosity, does swipe... Oh, wait a second, let me put down a bunch of tokens, making sure that we're protected. Does swipe have... What do we want? Poison? No, it doesn't seem like that is the case. Does it have anything to do with totems? Because I see some totems up here. You have a chance to summon a claw totem when swipe kills an enemy. Summons totem that attack with swipe. Avatars, when you use swipe and hit at least one enemy, all your totems gain +1 melee damage and +1 spell damage. The cooldown for the effect of the Stormclaw node is reset when you summon a totem. We might go with... I didn't think about it, but we might go with that. Is there anything here with totem? No. Okay, so this one, Gathering Storm, does not have anything to do with totem. You, totem. Nope. Upheaval? But upheaval, I believe... Yeah, there's a bunch of things we can do here, but upheaval uses 10 mana. Yeah, create upheaval totem, there's a lot of power over there. Shockwave chance on totem hit. So we're using this and we release a shockwave from the totem. Yeah, this would be good, but that 10 mana cost will be really bad for us. This one also has some poison, but we would have to give up... Yeah, there's nothing with totem here, and we would have to give up our dual wielding. But you know what? I think we're going with swipe. So let me put a cut in here, and I'll return back when we are at level 35. I'll hunt this mage too. But I'm going to return at level 35, and we shall see there how that feels. It might actually turn out into a viable build in many ways, a lot more ways than I thought about. I thought it would be doing as I've played so far. Yeah, I need more coffee. I think it's the saying of the day that I need more coffee. I'm constantly thinking about it. Yeah. I'll return. See you in a second. Here we are on level 35, and I feel happy. It's really weird that this build is working at this level, and I'm not really struggling. I have good enough damage, or I can scale it up with these multiple totems. I have a way to survive for long as well, turning into a Springer form, and then I'm putting down all these healing totems. They still do a lot of damage. I don't know. Overall, very weirdly, this build is actually working. In comparison to some of the other classes I've played, has actually turned out really well. It might just be because I gained a lot of knowledge, playing multiple times with multiple classes. Maybe I've just gained a bit more knowledge in time, and that's what is actually working. But it doesn't matter. Here we are. Let's upgrade this build and put it to the test. I just wanted to show you two items. I found this scepter here, and I've also found this axe which I could modify and upgrade. And you can see that from this axe I'm getting 58% chance to shred armor on hit and a 61% increased physical damage, so that is a lot right there. And then I have this scepter where I'm getting 65% increased physical damage, so once again this is really good. We're getting +8 to minion spell damage, and that's also really good. But overall, these are the two items which actually give me the biggest bonus for right now from everything that I have equipped. As far as passives go, we have 5 points. It's not a whole lot. We have to figure out what we would want. For another point of investment, I'm thinking either getting a bit more physical damage, either that or just getting another point of attunement and strength. That could also work well. More mana could also help, but I guess to begin with, let's just get this 7% extra damage both on poison and physical. Now we get Bush Stalker, increase critical strike chance by 10%, and if we invest 3 points, we are getting Health Leech on crit. I don't care too much about the Health Leech, to be honest, but I do care about at least 10% critical strike chance. That's pretty good. Your rage only decays if you have used an ability recently, past 4 seconds. No rage decay while out of combat. That doesn't matter too much to me, and I actually like for rage to deplete while we are out of combat, and I will tell you why. When I'm going in the Spriggan form, putting down a lot of totems, right? But generally speaking, I'm going in Spriggan form when I'm either getting attacked a lot and I need some healing, or when I'm out of mana. So I am going in Spriggan form, I'm putting down all those totems, and at that point I'm using most of the rage which I've gained, and pretty much I want to get back into the human form so that out of combat I'm regenerating mana, because that doesn't happen in Spriggan form. So having the rage decay while out of combat actually turns me back into a human, or I turn back into a human, and then I can get some mana regeneration. I don't care about this. I don't want to stay in rage form or in Spriggan form for long. Totemic Restoration, we said that we have a chance here to summon a healing totem when we are hit, and we wanted that. However, we need to take this longer path to it, and I think I am okay with that, right? Getting some increased healing from this bonus, cold damage. I guess we're doing a bit of cold damage with the cold totem. Then we're gonna get more increased healing for us and our minions. And finally, we're gonna get a chance here to just summon... Oh no, that's at 5 points. Ooh, it's a bit longer than I thought. So we're getting at least increased minion health. That's not the worst thing in the world. And increased minion healing, so that helps us. But we need 5 points for that of investment. Okay, well, didn't read well enough, but that is totally fine. It doesn't have to be 100% effective at this moment, right? It's a long-term investment. Over on this side, with Torn Totems, I said that I'd like to gain some mana when the totem dies out. The poison chance also helps us, but I'm thinking going with another one of these totems is also very good, because that will help us in Spriggan form to throw in more healing totems. I don't know how difficult it will be for us. No, it's 21 mana cost, that's not too difficult. I guess the mana efficiency is really helping us here. Then on the Tempest Strike, we are going for these effects, right? We want the chill and we want the freeze rate. What does this one? While channeling Avalanche, we're not doing that. We're not channeling avalanches, so we don't need to go there. Shock, I do like the shock. We could also get this wind booster whenever you cast Wind Tempest. You and your other allies it touches gain haste for a short duration. Additional Tempest strikes deal more damage. And then we are getting this where we have a chance to cast an actual tornado. Even though it's consuming a bit more mana, I think I am okay with that. Yeah, it says whenever you cast. Maybe this does not work with Looming Gale? Well, let's try it out. You know, the worst thing that we can discover is that it doesn't work. And that's fine. For this Spriggan form, at this moment, getting Rage could be interesting. Maelstrom, we're not into that. Spirit Thorns damage, what else could we want? Thorn Bursts deal more damage in a large area. Release the Burst of Thorns, damaging all nearby enemies. Okay, but we're not really using that skill. You now have a chance to summon a new vine next to a nearby enemy when a vine dies. Vine have increased attack and cast speed. It's a 6% chance for that to happen, and it wouldn't be bad. What if we go this way and we get a bit of poison chance in the form? Yeah, and vines poison chance increase. Your vines now cast thorns from range instead of using melee attacks. This is affected by nodes on this tree that affect spirit thorns, but they only fire one projectile and the great vine fires 3 projectiles. Maybe not that, but we're gonna go this way. But more importantly, let's go into swipe here. Way of the Hunt, getting a bit of extra damage and leech. And then we're gonna go into a chance to summon a Claw Totem on kill. And then getting this +3 to spell. Or, yeah, we have 3 points. So we can get +3 to totem spell damage on hit. I think I want to go with a higher chance to summon it, right? 30% chance to summon a Claw Totem, that is first. Then we're gonna get this one. Then I'm probably going to go with maybe a bigger area of effect, although we don't need it because we get up close and personal in melee combat and we summon these to attack nearby enemies, right? And that is totally fine by me. I think I like that. I think I like that quite a bit. And we could go down here next, where we could get a bit of physical shred chance, which would be great to lower physical resistances, but when you attack with swipe and hit at least one enemy, you gain health if you are in transformed, in Spriggan form, or mana if you are not transformed. And we can actually invest 3 points here. That would be 9 mana per hit. And I feel like that is really, really, really good. But either way, let's put this to the test. I am so excited. It's so dumb. And the fact that this has worked so far, it's crazy to me. And not only it has worked so far, but it still works. And you can see that I am taking down some of these really tough enemies very quickly. And we're throwing in all of these totems. Now the true test starts, right? Let me put down a bunch of totems. Now I have 5 healing totems. Throwing it on me. Look at that! Look at that! Isn't this cool? Isn't this actually cool? So dumb. So dumb, but so effective. So now I'm going into these forms, and you can see now that I'm out of combat, I prefer to regenerate some mana while we're going towards the next enemies. And I feel like that's pretty good. And when I'm out of mana, I'm going in Spriggan form. I'm getting a bit of healing here and there, and overall it's working quite well. The really nice thing is, I've looked at it, but it seems that no matter when I'm entering the Spriggan form, I am exiting with 55 mana. It doesn't seem to be any less, but it doesn't seem to be any more either. So we'll wait here for, let's say that we are leaving in... Let's wait for full mana and then go in Spriggan form, and let's see how we exit that form. Right, we go in Spriggan form. This is the rail that we have. I'm going to transform back. We don't need to wait for this to consume, but I'm going back in human form. Oh no, actually, apparently there is... If you get out of the form, you live with the mana. Maybe it's just when you start in negative mana or you consume it all. Maybe it's only at that point that you start with a bit of mana in your pocket. Maybe that is the case. Let's put down a bunch more vines here. I do like this a lot. Overall, it's working and I'm happy. I am really happy and I hope that you're enjoying this thing as well. And somehow these experiments have paid off a lot more than I thought they would. Swarmblade form. Let's take a look at Swarmblade and see what that is about. Aspects of might, okay. Some cold damage, some physical and melee physical damage. Plus spell. That is also good. More attunement, which is great. Crit avoidance per 5 attunement plus 3%. That's really nice for protection. Now let's see if I turn into one of these Swarmblade forms. What do we get from it? Okay, so we're like a bug. Minions. Area of effects. More attunement. Okay. It's like playing Pokemon with Zapdos, was it called? Ever wanted to be Zapdos? Didn't you think that that Pokemon was so cool? Well, there we have it. We have a form for you. That's what it seems to be saying to me. Let's move on up north. There's another mini boss over there. There's this large area here where we're fighting quite well. Yeah, a lot of archers. Now I can go in Spriggan form. I can put down a bunch of these totems. They will cast healing on us. In 5 of these totems, if I also do some normal attacks, I throw in a bunch of poison effects. If I throw in the vines, it's pretty much murder on the dance floor. And it's nice that I'm also getting these claw totems. Yeah, happy with this. Really happy with how this turned out. After this boss battle, we're gonna call it a day. I think we've shown everything that there is to be shown, right, for this. Let's put down a bunch of vines and now we're gonna straight up attack it. Look at the poison scale there. I should be investing in that as well. I should probably move away from elementals a bit more because physical damage, it seems to be working really well, and poison damage seems to be working very, very well. I don't know exactly what else you would want to do with this build. In the sense that if I am looking, you know, with Tempest Strike, we're getting some elemental damage, and at times I feel like that is working really well just because it's a nice AoE. And also because there will be enemies which are resistant to physical damage, right? So in those situations, getting a bit of elemental damage is also really good. However, if you would like to replace that with something, I guess Eterra's Blessing, because we can automate the Eterra Blessing casting, you could get something like chance to summon a healing totem on high health. That is something that you could do. Is there anything else with totem here? No, that is the only one. Is there anything with poison here, for example? There is something with poison. Poison resistance and elemental resistance. That's nice. Poison chance 30% per point. When Eterra's Blessing is cast on your Scorpion companion, you are both granted the chance to poison enemies with attack spell and spells for 4 seconds. Okay, you can work with extra poison on that one. But there we have it. That is going to have to be it. Surprisingly, we have made the Druid totem build, and it is actually working. If you like that, do consider leaving a like. As you know, it does help me, helps the channel grow, but I think it helps bring more idea to the field, and I'm looking forward to your ideas as well, just to try and mix them and try some other crazy things out. Tomorrow we're starting with the Acolyte, and we're gonna see how that works into practice. But until then, hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I wish you all Have a wonderful day.